Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. In early 1960s, Israel and Arab countries continued with upgrading their air forces by introducing Mach II capable fighters. Israel's only major weapon supplier was France, so they acquired Mirage III. Although this jet, which Israelis named Shahak, would achieve fame after being used in the Six-Day War, its initial use quickly revealed several shortcomings. Cyrano radar was designed to detect high-altitude bombers. It was almost useless against fighter-sized targets on low to medium altitude, and that was exactly where aerial fighting in the Middle East was taking place. The radar was also supposed to provide ranging information for the gun sights, but that rarely worked either. The solution was to install cockpit switches which could set the gun sight to one of three manual aim settings: 250, 400, or 600 meters. Although it might seem like a step back, this simple solution worked well in practice, and most kills attributed to Israeli Mirage III pilots were achieved by guns. The first time that the Mirage III and MiG-21 came close to a real clash was in July 1964. Two Mirages on a recon mission over Egypt were intercepted by Egyptian MiG-21s, which managed to launch an Atoll missile at the departing Israeli aircraft. The missile was launched from maximum range and it failed to hit the targets. In November 1964, the first actual engagement between those two types occurred over Syria. Israeli pilot Amos Amir attempted to attack a Syrian MiG-21 with all three weapons at his disposal: the R-530 radar-guided missile, Shafir infrared missile, and guns. All those weapons failed, after which the Syrian MiG leader attacked Amir with his Atoll missile, but that missed as well. This incident was covered in a previous video on this channel, and you can watch it if you haven't already. It is now 14 July 1966, and tensions between Israel and Syria are again high as the result of dispute over water resources. One Israeli vehicle was destroyed by a mine the previous day near the Syrian border, and 3 Israeli soldiers died in the incident. This resulted in emergency posting pilots being called to their units. One such pilot was Yoram Agmon, a future ace who at the time flew with the 101 Squadron, known as the 1st Fighter Squadron. About 4 p.m., Israel launched airstrikes against Syrian engineering vehicles. 2 flights of 4 Mirages were tasked with combat air patrol to protect the strikers. 119 Squadron flight was flying over Syrian territory, while 101 Squadron flight remained just within Israeli airspace at 25,000 feet. We are now flying with number 4 in the ladder formation, Yoram Agmon. He wasn't initially supposed to fly, but the original number 4 pilot was unavailable, so Agmon stepped in. As the flight was patrolling along the Golan Heights, the ground control ordered the flight to fly full power west. That meant engaging afterburners, but Yoram Agmon knew that with 2 fuel tanks, flying at full military thrust wouldn't be much slower, and as the last man in the formation, he could lag behind a little. GCI then ordered the Mirages to turn east. At this point, Agmon had at least 300 liters of fuel more than the rest of his flights. After flying east for a while, he spotted 2 MiGs at low altitude. He reported the sighting, jettisoned his fuel tanks, and dove after the Syrians. Israeli rules of engagement were very flexible. The first pilot in the flight to spot the enemy would take the lead, even if he was only number 4 in the formation, such as in this case. Syrian MiGs were flying at about 500 feet, and given the initial difference in altitude, Yoram Agmon lost sight of them. He continued with his dive, hoping to reacquire visual contact after reaching a very low level, where MiGs would be easier to spot against the sky. this is exactly what happened. He spotted the MiGs about 2 kilometers ahead of him. At this altitude, his missiles were not a viable option, so he tried to approach for a gun kill. But before he came within range, MiGs broke, either as the result of a warning or after having spotted the Mirage. This, however, gave Agmon a chance to close the distance. Israeli pilots now only saw one MiG. It is unclear whether this was the leader or the wingman. He then opened fire and hit with his third burst. The pilot managed to eject. This was the first ever air-to-air kill for the Mirage III. Sources don't specify the exact model of the Syrian MiG-21, but it was almost certainly F-13. Now I have to say that in DCS World we don't have F-13, so a later BIS variant is used to emulate it. 3 Mirages from the flight had to divert to Ramat David because of their fuel state, while Yoram Agmon was able to return to Hatzor. Israeli Mirage pilots were credited with 4 more kills by the end of 1966, including the only kill ever with an R-530 radar-guided missile against an Egyptian MiG-19. Yoram Agmon flew in 6-day war but failed to engage enemy aircraft. He scored 1 kill with the Mirage after the war and then converted to F-4 Phantom. He scored further 4 kills flying this aircraft in 1973 and 1974. Achieving a relatively rare Mirage and Phantom Ace status. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to press the like button if you did. Support the channel on Patreon if you're able to, and keep watching Showtime 112.